Now, a couple of these slides really aren't going to talk about product, but it's going to talk about things you need to think about. Because in a in the cloud world, and when we're talking about digital transformation or business transformation, there's different lines of business and people that you're talking to in those businesses, and they all have different things that they care about. If I was to talk about, circuit cards and and cabinets and all that stuff to Mike Bauer, the CEO of ScanSource, I wouldn't even get time at the table. If I told him that I could save him millions of dollars by making certain additions to a system and how we're going to integrate to his digital transformation solutions and how we're going to take social media and make them most successful, he loves that stuff. That would be like right in his wheelhouse. But the IT guys, they like to hear about, all of that type of stuff. So, when it comes to cloud and business transformation, there is do I do on-prem if I want to add employees? How about if I have to add multiple locations? In some cases, on-prem makes a lot of sense because it's secure and it's easy, and I don't have to have this whole cloud thing going on, and I'm a pizza place and I don't need to do all of this, digital transformation. Just keep it simple, stupid, right? On-prem, perfect. I need to add employees. So do I need to buy more cards, or do I need to just, pay $20 a month to add an employee? A $600 card, or do I pay $20 a month? What's the ROI on that? So in some cases, cloud makes a lot of sense when I'm just incrementally adding remote offices or adding people. I don't have to buy hardware, and I don't have to buy software and more maintenance services to go along with it. I'm adding multiple locations. Does that need to be secure? Is it one of those situations where I have to have local trunks, and if the cloud network goes down, I'm going to go out of business? Do I have an on-premise at my multiple locations, or do I have cloud because it's easy? Remember CapEx and OpEx. What's the difference between CapEx and OpEx? I'll ask anybody that wants to answer. Chris?
What's that? CapEx and OpEx?
Yeah.
So you've got capital expenditures versus operational expenditures.
Okay.
So capital is going to be more of an investment that you pay and kind of own.
Sure. And OpEx is what?
I'll give you an example. OpEx, like cloud, it's something you pay for on a kind of recurring type basis.
All right. So why do I care about CapEx or OpEx?
You can prepare better with CapEx.
You can do what? Prepare?
You make the purchase, you made the purchase.
Right.
With OpEx, it's a purchase every month, so I guess you can prepare for that too, but it might change.
All right, good. Okay, Mr. Customer, you want to add a remote office, and that remote office is going to cost you $30,000. You're a fledgling, young business trying to, move forward, and I got to go to the bank, and all my loans are tapped out at the bank, and I don't have $30,000, but I've got to open up that remote office because I have to. So from an OpEx standpoint, I might be able to just pay $1,000 a month or $500 a month for those however many users, and I can afford to do an OpEx, but I can't afford to do a CapEx, right? From a tax purpose, I'm not a tax lawyer, but there's something called asset on books and no asset on books. So do I lease the fleet of trucks, or do I buy the fleet of trucks? If I'm trying to sell my company, or if I'm a public company and I don't want to have heavy assets on my books, I'm going to lease the fleet of trucks. I'm not going to buy the fleet of trucks. I don't have, $500,000 to buy all those trucks. But I do have $50,000 a month I can throw towards my workforce, right? So there's all sorts of reasons besides capital money and monthly recurring money that business owners think about why they would do one over the other, because they may want to have an asset on a book and sweat the investment, because they don't, I buy my cars, I don't lease my cars, because when I'm done at the end of 4 years, which is usually the payoff thing, I'm going to own that thing, you know. But with a cloud or an OpEx model, after 4 years, I can get something new, right? And I can get me a new car or get me some new phones, you know, that type of thing. So whatever makes the most sense, but it's not black and white when it comes to CapEx and OpEx. There's all sorts of reasons why business owners do what they do. So anyway, we were talking about seasonal workforce. I think Rob had talked about, you know, data networking and the seasonal workforce. And there are, like, you know, organizations. There are organizations like 1-800-Flowers and, you know, places like that during Valentine's Day and Christmas, and, you know, they'll hire all these I live down in Disney area, right? And they hire seasonal workers, you know, and that's not a good example, but you might have people taking calls in their call center during heavy call volumes, and then you can reduce and add, you know, that's a good reason to go to cloud. Remote workforce and ease of doing business. Now, when we talked about hosted business apps and things like that, people think about voice and, you know, do I do the cloud and I don't do the cloud. You know, I'm not really a proponent about cloud, but I do have Salesforce.com, which is cloud. You know, and I do host a website, you know, where all of my, you know, documents, you know, for all my workers, we keep it, you know, in a cloud storage. And I'm doing cloud for all of my backups, but I don't think voice and cloud, you know, that just doesn't feel right. You know, people are doing more cloud than they realize, but they just don't equate some of these technologies to cloud. So, you know, again, line of business buyers would say, how do I improve customer service? You know, show me how to use this, show me how to build it. You know, those are, what we're talking about doing is taking your conversation from the IT, CIO, CTO, over to the line of business that are doing the advertising, the marketing, which is causing customers to come in via social media and other means to get, you know, access to you. Or when I do a television campaign or a commercial, all of a sudden our call center lights up and we don't have enough people to answer the telephones, you know, that type of thing. So, I'm not going to read all this to you because I'm going to get you the slide. But when we take a look at reduce the total cost of ownership, what does that mean from a cloud perspective? Operation, staff, tools, training, hardware, software. Well, we're doing that today. What's the difference? Well, when when IP Office went from release 9 to release 10, if you didn't have IPOS, you probably are still on release 9. Okay, if you went from release 10 to release 11, if you didn't have IPOS, you're probably still on release 9 because you didn't want to pay for all of those upgrades, right, and migrations. Well, in the cloud, you know, the cloud is generally kept up to speed on software releases. It's normally at the latest and greatest, and ScanSource with their IP Office is testing IP Office Release 11 right now for the cloud. We know it works, but, you know, you got to kind of beat it up and find out where all the, you know, what are the things that are going on. You know, again, OpEx, predictable cost, which is CapEx, simple, flexible. What's the business model? What do they need? You know, from a cloud perspective, it's generally OpEx, you know. But in some cases where the extreme guy says that you can have their data network in an OpEx model, okay? Right now, when you go to a cloud provider, 8x8 or whoever, you generally can get a cloud port and a telephone. The telephone may not be, you know, what Avaya does with their telephones, but it's a telephone. It could be a Polycom, could be a whatever. It's not a bad thing. But you're not getting that for free. I mean, that $20 just turned into $22 because they're throwing in a telephone. Nothing's free, right? And from a ScanSource and an Avaya standpoint, we have options for you to be able to, you know, get a cloud port, get a telephone OpEx because I don't have the $30,000, you know, cash. I need to not only get my data, my voice, and my telephone in an OpEx model. And so a lot of organizations are trying to figure out how to bundle all that together in one simple monthly price. Outsourcing, when we were taking a look at the line, Do we have seasonal increases of of employees at 1-800-Flowers and other places like that, or at Disney? Improve productivity. So for me to add IPOCC to an IP office, anybody have an idea what that would cost? Install, integration, training, all that kind of stuff.
How big?
Yeah, let's say 100 agents. Probably about $2,500 an agent, maybe something like
I would
that.
say a little less than that, but
If
that's
your,
about right.
your system has to already be server edition, though, right?
Yeah,
So if you bought
yeah.
Essential Edition to begin with, you just bought a new.
Well, if you're needing 100 agents, that really, it's,
Yeah.
you've got a reason to have 100 agents. My point is this, is that for you to add more sophisticated contact center, to add Chronicle, Chronicle, which is, now via reporting, to add contact center, all of those things take cash or a lease. But if I can do it in an OpEx model, if I can add that functionality, so where that on the rate card for ScanSource powered by, I can also add contact center, and I can add reporting, sophisticated reporting, without having to go to contact center for just $1 or $2 more a month or whatever, then that makes a whole lot of sense. So in a lot of cases, can I add functionality that I need without having to come up with a lot of cash and a lot of integration and support and training for my staff? Make sense? Yeah? Any pushback? Don't get me wrong, we make a lot of money selling premise-based systems, and cash in hand's better than two in the bush, or whatever they say, And that's the challenge that we have with business owners moving to the cloud model. And nobody would recommend cut and run to the cloud, because you got to keep the lights on. But I would say to you, what would you prefer? $20,000 in cash or $200 a month? The logical answer would generally be $20,000 in cash, because I need to make payroll. And I need to, do certain things with my fleet of whatever. But at the same time, I know that $20,000 is really worth $40,000 to me if I had done it in an OpEx model. Because generally, when you become part of the predictable cost, that means you're just a number on a spreadsheet in a corporation that gets paid monthly, and people don't think a whole lot about it, because dial tone comes from God, right? We don't know how it all happens. Those IT guys, we don't even want to talk to them. I get the bill every month type of thing, right? There's some good things about that OpEx model. So if you're a business owner looking to move into the cloud for whatever services that you deal with, you're not going to move overnight. Some companies have. And it's been very, very, very painful for them, and they move too quick. But if you can move 10% of your business, 20% of your business until the inflection point, which means where my premise-based hardware sales are going down and my cloud-based sales are going up, and they meet in the middle where now I'm making the same amount of money as I was making from my hardware, then I'm good. I can keep on going. But until then, I got to keep selling premise. That's just the reality of the world, unless you're a born in the cloud provider or business owner, that never built his business on services and implementation support and things like that. And I think a lot of business owners have, Make sense? I'm going to jump past these type of things, except what I would like to say is that the amount of mid-market companies over there, the amount of money that's available, in the mid-market. Obviously, the U.S. is a big part of, the opportunities in the mid-market. I would say to a business owner, you need to have a piece of that $9.3 billion. Now, the only thing that I'm showing here is that it looks like here, this 10 to 50 space, which is, I don't know if you know this or not, but the majority of IP offices sold in the world are 50 stations and below. And it looks like a good part of the growth from a cloud perspective might be in that space right there. You see what CAGR is? If I was to take money and put it in the bank, it would compound annually, right? I'd get, 13% compounded annual growth rate, 14%, 17%, 20%. So if I'm an SME and I'm in mid-market and I'm going to spend dollars in a segment, yes, there's a lot of phones, in these categories, but that mid-market space is a very, very lucrative space, or the SME space, because it's 100 stations and below, So if I was having this conversation with a business owner, I'd say, why don't you start migrating your small IP offices? You're not even going to talk about premise. We're going to talk about cloud. Mr. Customer, I'm going to go out to every customer and I'm going to have a hardware quote in my hand and I'm going to have a cloud quote in my back pocket, or vice versa, Because he's going to say, well, what about those 8x8 guys? Well, there's my cloud quote, and so we've been selling leases for a long time, right? Because why? The business owner doesn't have cash to put down on a phone system. There's no difference between a lease and except the lease, you're going to own it at the end of the lease, and you're going to sweat, you're going to have equity, you're going to have an asset on the books, that type of thing. So anyway, now this is the money slide. I'm not going to go through all the detail, but I would like to say that if I'm doing on-premise and I'm only growing, $2 million in 4 years compared to 291% growth rate or a 371% growth rate, I think I might change a percentage of my business to the cloud and, see where it's going. So, this it's very real. It's something that most business owners, not end users, but your owners of your businesses, if they haven't, are all of y'all doing cloud? You're doing cloud, right? Cloud? Yes? No? Yeah. So no, but your company, does it sell cloud telephony services? Okay. Well, they probably should if they're not, but I'd be surprised if they aren't looking seriously at it, because the numbers make sense. Let me get past this. This is the one that, if you're an old guy like me, that have been around through, that 500,000 installed base IP offices is now 600,000, by the way, since this slide came out about a year and a half ago. We hit 600,000 this past year. I could show you the math about IP offices sold every 5 minutes, but I won't. And the deployments range from 5 to 3,000, but the majority of deployments are 50 stations and below. But if we were to take a look at, I've got 600,000 phone systems, and the majority of Avaya's businesses in the U.S., so that means, well, let's say 400,000 of those 600,000 are in the U.S., and let's say 20,000 of them are sitting here in Greenville or Columbia or wherever, there's a great opportunity. But we also have 200,000 CS1K systems, 275,000 BCMs out there, and there's either more or less, North Stars. Anybody heard of North Star before? North Stars, they were the partner system. Actually, they were more like the IP office system when we bought Nortel. So they were big competitors back in the day. But we had 350,000 of them that need to be upgraded to IP office, and we have ASIP credits for, well, we don't have it for North Star, I take that back. For the BCM was the IP office equivalent, right? And the North Star was the partner equivalent, right? So we own all that. That's all Avaya. So we have all of those phones out there. If I was a marketing person or if I was an owner of a business, I'd be trying to figure out from my local Avaya guy, you got a database on where all this stuff is at in my patch? And I'd be going after them, with some sort of campaign. So
BCM goes end of support October this year.
Very good reason. very good reason. So there's great opportunity for business partners to take a percentage of these things to the cloud, and that's what we're talking about doing. Will you take all of it? No, probably not. Will the competition get a piece of it? Yes, probably so. Depends how quickly you're going back into your accounts and identifying which ones have these systems. What we're noticing, though, is that a CS1K, just like when I was telling you, when I was with the state, we sold 250, 200, it seemed like every sale was 250 stations or around that. I was selling all CMs, PBXs, not IP offices. IP office wasn't even on the state contract. So it could have been 50 stations and they'd get a CM. So there's a lot of CMs and a lot of CS1Ks now that fit in that model of 3,000 and below, that fit very nicely and a lot more competitive with IP office when you're going in. So if I'm replacing a CM or a CS1K with a CM, let's say it's $30,000. Well, an IP office would be $20,000, and I'm competing against any one of our friends in the industry. You have a better chance of winning when you're going in with IP office in a certain line set, right? Obviously, the smaller guys are going to try to come up to this, but IP office is as strong at 3,000 stations as it is 1,000 stations or 500. So, good stuff. So something to think about. We're going to talk about powered by, and Mark's going to go through a little bit more about that, but it does a lot. We've got, global footprint when it comes to that. This was one of these things where we were talking about the different, on-premise, traditional hybrid, high availability hybrid, and cloud. Now, all these names and, things aren't exact. You can probably add some names here and there, and when this slide was made, probably we could change the names a little bit. But when you do, on-premise, we have lots of competition, right? When we do traditional hybrid, where you can take your existing base and integrate it to a cloud provider, and we do the integration very nicely, there's not many people that do that very well, and ShoreTel is now Mitel. But when we can take a cloud and we can take the premise and we can integrate it to the cloud and we can make high availability with virtualized networking, that's a game changer. So you would simply ask the customer, how important is your business staying up and running in the event of a failure, Mr. 1,000 station customer with a 100 agent call center? I would probably say it's pretty damn important, Pete. You better do everything you can, and I'm counting on you to keep it up and running. Well, you won't get Ring Central and and some others to be able to do this, but we can do it for you. And you've already had IP Office for all these years, and we do a good job, and you've got our maintenance, so you can believe we can do it. And then if you're already doing this as a business owner, and you're doing this as a business owner, and this as a business owner, this is with the ScanSource powered by IP Office is a slam dunk. I mean, because the phones are the same and the program is similar, and the conversation point, and that server's either in the cloud or in the closet. It really doesn't matter because the user of the telephone doesn't know the difference, right? But now they're moving from a CapEx to an OpEx because they need to, do it that way. I'll go past this. So this might have been an earlier question that you had, so we have, migrating the existing base. So we have a premise-based IP office, and we've got a percentage of phones that are analog and digital because we have the phone out by the football field, a mile away, and we got IP phones, and we got an IP office, and everything is fine. But it might not be as secure, and we may have other locations that we need to do something with. Right now, we're using PRI and plain old trunks. That's POTS and a little bit of SIP, and that's kind of where probably 400,000 of those 600,000 IP offices sit today. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take whether or not this is cloud, or whether or not it's private cloud, or whether or not it's whatever you want it to be. Let's say it's cloud. And we're going to take we're going to put the IP Office Server Edition in the cloud, right? We're still connected. IP Office and UC and CC, we've loaded onto that server because we needed software. And we needed some contact center. And now we're going to connect the data network. So this was, showing a switch and/or a router at the time, and we're going to connect it back to the data center, whether or not it's a private data center or a public data center or in AWS or wherever that data center is at. And now what we have is we can transition all of these telephones and everything to that data center. And we're going to possibly use that expansion server as a backup server in the event of a failure. All right? So now the IP phones have to connect there. That's the blue line. But since there's no gateway up there to plug these things in after 2 miles, because the gateway sits in Santa Clara, California, or wherever the Googly data center is, or the Amazon data center is, we're going to keep those connected to an expansion server. Does that make sense so far? Follow the lines? Because I can't route these things up to there because these are analog. They got to connect to that, but that can route up to there. Now I'm going to move my SIP trunks to there, okay? And if I move my SIP trunks to there, because the data center already has SIP trunks there, and that makes a lot of sense. My SIP trunks is secure. They've got, session border controllers up there. I don't have to buy a session border controller or maintain one. I still need some PRI and POTS lines here in case I'm making local and long distance calls, or maybe in the event of a failure, I can reduce, from 20 trunks to 5 trunks because I don't need as many, only in case there's a failure. Okay, that's kind of cool. So that works. What this would show, if I had another slide with animation, it would show that if this died right there, these would register to there, and the SIP would re-register to the gateway. And that's like something that nobody else can do, and we do a pretty good job with that. And we can have a remote server off of that expansion server as well, to be able to fail to. So, for a customer that wants to secure their services in a hybrid cloud or a private data center, or even, leverage the powered by cloud, these are some of the things that we can do for your customers.
Thank you, Pete. So I'm the VBM for Avaya Cloud here at ScanSource. Mark Bruton, I introduced myself earlier this morning. And I'm just going to mention a little bit about our 2 offers we have. So we have our Cloud Solutions Powered by offer. This is a ScanSource-led offer. So this is a traditional partner-led offer, VAR-led offer. And then we also have a master agent offer, which is through Intelisys, which is called Avaya Cloud, and that's a completely Avaya-led offer. So with Cloud Solutions, again, this is our partner-led offer. And so this offer was built with the channel in mind. So a partner would be able to make money through margins. And so I know a couple of the partners in here are actually using the solution right now. But the partner continues to maintain and own the relationship with their end users. And that's something that we've seen in the marketplace is very beneficial. Just because of these end users are people you're talking to day in and day out, and you have a vested interest in their well-being and their success. And so you might as well make money off keeping those relationships, right? So we have built the offer where you guys can keep those relationships. And we do that in 2 ways. The first is through support. So looking at support, and with our offer, the partner would control the tier 1 support. And then ScanSource and Avaya would be there for tier 2 through tier 4 support. The other way that we would leverage the partners is through billing. So this offer, we bring together Avaya for the licensing piece, and we bring a hosting data center for the hosting piece, and then a telecommunications provider for the hosting SIP trunking. And so we bring all those together and provide one consolidated bill. And that bill we in turn would give to the partner, who in turn invoices their end user. So again, you're having that relationship. It's white labeled. It's coming from you. The bill's coming from you as a partner that you're giving to your end users. Our offer is built with margins. So we would give you a price as a partner, and you in turn would add your margins to your end users. So depending on what services, what benefits, things you're adding to the table, we're consistently seeing 30+% margin on the offer. And so on the slide here, we do have a couple of target prices for you guys. We have two offers. We have our telephony and our advanced UC offers. And we'll talk about kind of what the difference between those two offers is. But we like to be in the middle of kind of what we're seeing out there in the market as far as cost goes to your end users. And at $25 and $29, we think we have a pretty good offer there.
Mark, does that include the SIP truck or not?
That does. So with our offer, Pete was talking earlier about just some of the things that Avaya can do that some of our competition can't, and that hybrid is one of those things. We have a very good hybrid model. We can do the pure cloud hybrid. We do have the on-prem. Being a ScanSource partner, that would be available to you as well. We have Avaya endpoints. We can use third-party endpoints. If there's a 500 V2, we can use those digital and analog lines on there as well. Going on to the second tier here, I was telling you about the margin play. You're going to make margins. You're going to be able to command a pretty good margin there with this offer. We do offer some other value-added things here at ScanSource, like marketing and different communications that you can in turn give to your end users. And then going down this bottom line here, this flexibility line, our offer is essentially a month-to-month offer. So that can be a beneficial thing to some customers, just depending on where they're at in their cycle or kind of what they're looking at in the future. But again, you want to lock down people more than a month to month usually, and so Avaya has incentivized that. So with this offer, Avaya has promotions going on right now, and there's been promotions in the past, and hopefully in the future as well. So we have a little asterisk on here just because if there is a promo being used or some type of incentive, then more than likely that there is going to be a requirement for some term length, and usually it's about 3 years. The flexibility we also offer comes from our SIP trunk provider. So we use a company called Intermedia. And so we're able to, with Intermedia, give you guys the flexibility of either including that in the offer or not. And that's something that is kind of unique with ScanSource, where we're not charging any type of fee or any type of hidden cost with not using our SIP trunk provider. You can use it or you don't have to. It's up to you and your end user. So sometimes if you've had a customer that you just got in there 2 months before a big provider came in there and already signed a big hefty long contract, there's a good possibility you might be able to work with them, and you would still be able to get that deal. So we offer our Telephony Plus version and an Advanced UC version as well. And so if you're familiar with the on-prem versions of Microsoft, of IP Office, you would look at this more as like the basic and power users. So with the Advanced UC, you're going to gain a lot from the 1X portal mobile client, and be able to have those road warriors, those folks working at their homes and whatnot, and be able to be very, very integrated with the rest of their workforce for those particular end users. And then they're also going to get a lot of good integrations with the Advanced UC as well. But both are very, very much feature rich and a lot to offer.
Can you back up one and tell me a little bit more about the installation services?
So we offer at ScanSource. So part of the offer comes with some of those installation services, and where we would work with the partners. So they're not having to do a whole lot once they actually get to the end user to install the services. But then we also, if you need a la carte, like we sold it, you take care of it. We do have ScanSource has as a service that's extra, where it's pretty much they do everything. So you can just kind of sell it and move on. This site looks very familiar. Pete was showing something very similar earlier. You know, we have these options. So if somebody is really interested in something like the high availability hybrid, or looking at that downtime, you can't really have much downtime. We need something that's going to give us some really good resiliency. We do have those options, and that'd just be something that to talk to us here at ScanSource and see what we can do. But we have an option for pretty much everything, and it's something that we're getting pretty well versed in as well.
So this might be a situation where, 8x8 or whoever is coming into your existing customer accounts, or you as a business partner that sell more than one cloud service, and you're, you may be selling another cloud service, but the business owner says that your cloud service cannot provide me in the event I have a data outage, complete uptime. I'm a call center, I need to be able to stay up, no matter where you're gonna say you're gonna route the stuff. You're gonna route it to my home, my agents have to log in with a cell phone from home. You may be able to talk to them about doing something like a hybrid cloud solution. In this situation, an 8x8 might fit. In this situation, this is where a Powered by fits very well for you, Mr. Customer. It's the most secure thing you can do. So, it's not black and white, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
It depends what the customer really needs, because some of these cloud providers cannot provide that level of functionality.
So just getting into pricing here as partners. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we are a margin play. So these are the prices that you would see, and you in turn, depending on services and what you kind of wrap around the offer, what you would add to that. If it's 30 points or 40 points or even 50 points. Again, just depending on the offer and how many users you have and kind of what you're adding. Those are some of the margins we've seen that have been commanded in the past, and we think that can be commanded in the future. And so for our offer, you would take one of these offers up top here. We have our SMB Telephony Plus user offer. So I didn't mention that earlier. So that offer is just for small instances. So with this offer, it actually stops at 6. The offer we're going to talk about next with Intelisys and Avaya Cloud, the Avaya let offer, that actually can go down to 1, but our offer stops at 6. And on the back end, there's just a little bit of finagling that's done on the back end, and that's why you see a little bit of the pricing difference and why it's separated. But it's essentially the same as the standard telephony offer. And then the advanced UC offer, you see it's a little bit more of a premium price there. But all of these offers we've seen that have been very competitive, and something that the industry is starting to take hold of, and we're seeing pretty much every week new deployments.
What's the dynamic if I start off with the SMB Telephony Plus, and then I have 15 stations, and then I add 10, and I need to change pricing? Is there any convoluted conversion as far as how my licenses are loaded at ScanSource? Is it downtime for the customer? Is it rebuilding, programming? What's involved?
Yeah, so I think a little bit of everything there. So it's a distinct, separate, different instance in the data center. So our hosting provider would have to take it from that instance and then put it onto another instance. And so it's something that personally I haven't done very much of. I haven't really worked on too many of those opportunities where we have had to do that. I think it's pretty much somebody's kind of just been in the SMB and they've stayed there. But it's something we can do. It's not as simple as if you had 55 and you needed to add 10 more to 65. That's very simple. We just send a few emails in the hosting center, and we get some more licenses from Avaya, and we're on we go. I don't think it's going to be super prohibitive, but it's going to be a little bit more work on our side.
Is there a one-time cost to make that change?
As of right now, you'd pay the same. You'd pay. There is a little bit of an OpEx cost to all of our offers. We charge to help with that provisioning and getting that started. And so it'd be a very similar cost to that as well. And then, well, going back, any other questions for the cloud solutions powered by? So this is the Avaya Cloud. This is available through Intelisys. This came out a few months ago from Avaya. So this is an Avaya-led offer. So Avaya is going to be doing all of the support tier 1 through tier 4. All of the billing, so all of the billing will be done through Avaya. All of the provisioning. Pretty much the only thing that an agent or a partner would really have to bring to the table is the lead and the business. So how Avaya does this is they have a very good storefront, and this is a kind of a snapshot of it right here. You can go to it on midmarket.com, and if you are an Intelisys agent, Avaya would actually give you your own link to this website where you can make it into your company branding, and you'd be able to bring your particular customers to this website, and within a few clicks, they would have a complete Avaya system at their location, if you're not porting in numbers. So it's a very, very good offer. So this offer is led by commissions. So Avaya would be paying Intelisys commissions, who in turn would be paying, just taking a little bit off the top, and then would be paying their agents, their partners, the majority of those commissions.
And those prices, Mark, include a phone?
So these
36 months, right?
So yeah, so it depends. So with this offer, it's a little bit different. So instead of like using promos or incentives, they have a device a credit plan. So if your customer wants to do a 1-year term, a 3-year term, or a 5-year term, depending on those terms, they would get a certain cash amount of credit that they could use for a phone. And right now, it's about for a 1-year term, it's about the equivalent of a J129, and then I believe it goes from there to like 169 for a 3-year term, and then 5-year, I think it's like a 179 or something like that. So very, very, very good incentives. And also as an agent, again, this is a commission play. Right now there are some incentives for the Intelisys agents that you would get more MRR revenue for the first month if you bring in an order. And so if you were to bring an end user to this, to the Avaya website, the Avaya Market website, you would actually have them go ahead and put a credit card in here, probably very similar to some of these cloud-only providers we've been talking about today. So it's a very good option, a very good play, and it's something that's gaining traction as well. One of the other things that's included in this as well is the Avaya Spaces platform. So the team collaboration, very similar to some of the competition out there. Kind of the industry leader right now is a lot of people know about Slack, of just being able to work together with colleagues and be able to post chat, be able to post documents and collaboration, and be able to look at video and conferencing. And so these are things that are all included, and they're all kind of described pretty well within the Avaya Market site as well, that you'd be able to show your customers as well.
And Mark, just a quick note.
Yeah.
What we have the functionality except POs now.
Okay, what was that?
Purchase orders?
Yeah.
So that function is there, so they don't have to pay with a credit card.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that just kicked in.
Oh, cool.
recently.
Okay.
How do
That's
they
great.
handle switches and routers and UPSs and things like that? Paging equipment and all that?
Yeah. So it's just been out for a couple months. So anything that if kind of falls outside the box, we let's go to Powered By. Let's look at Powered By. And if it was an agent that couldn't handle those things, we would look at partnering up with an agent that could, and then working out some type of teaming agreement together.
So these phones would come with a power brick, and
Yeah.
they're just making an assumption the customer has a switch.
Yeah. So- oh. So this is a good slide for partners. So the story really shouldn't be, it doesn't have to be and or, like, you know, we only do cloud solutions, we only do Avaya Cloud. It could really be a both. Some customers, it's going to be a better idea for us to use this Avaya Cloud offer through Intellisys and just go ahead and sell it and then just get that residual income every month coming in from commissions. Some it's going to be better to go ahead and be immersed and work with those customers on a regular basis. And so this slide just talks about some of those main points that I talked about throughout this little presentation. Again, being the big ones are Avaya. The Avaya Cloud is completely Avaya-led. Basically just bring that end user to the table. And the cloud solutions is going to be something that you're going to have a lot of skin in the game with support, with billing. But again, we're trying to incentivize that as well, and you'll be able to command a little bit higher margin there. So that's what I have for the Avaya UCaaS offerings here at ScanSource.
The Avaya Cloud through Intellisys, I'm kind of back to where he is with like the switch and with that. How does that all work? And that you were just saying, if you get to where you have to do that, so basically they don't have a IP office there right now. They're not using this as moving up. They maybe have a partner system, an old partner system, and they want to get cloud. We would probably lean towards powered because you guys would have the services to come in there, install a switch, program all the phones and everything else. If we went through Intellisys went that direction, would they still do the programming of all the phones and all the other stuff?
So yeah, I mean, it's meant to be where an agent
Just sells the
just
product.
sells the
and lets it
product.
go.
Yeah.
So are they going to have somebody from Avaya call the customer and say, hey, where do we start?
I would think. I mean,
I'm not
I've never
really
sold.
familiar with the Intellisys
I'll
offer.
be like
Yeah.
everybody else. You know, they're gonna call you up and ask you what you want.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna tell you how it's gonna work based on,
So they would still probably have to buy a switch if they didn't have one. Well, they definitely have to buy a switch. They could.
well, not necessarily, if they send a power break, you can run it off your existing switch, which is what most people end up doing.
Yeah, or they might have a switch already.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Very-
So one of the other things is the telecom piece. It's part of the Avaya Cloud offer, so it's not optional. You have to have it. It's 1-for-1. There's no ands or buts about that. So with our offer, if you're using our intermedia with our offer, it's the same. You have to do 1-for-1. But with some bigger companies, it might not be beneficial to do that. And so if you're bringing in another telecoms provider, then you could do some things there a little bit differently, where you're not having that many trunks compared to the licenses.
Can you say that again, please?
So if you're using your own telecom provider, so not the one we're providing with the cloud solutions, and let's say you have a bigger end user, then you can, if you're using your own telecom provider, not have a 1-for-1. So not have a 1-for-1 license with a trunk.
So it would reduce the cost of Intellisys?
No, so that'd be for our cloud solutions.
Oh, for your
For
cloud.
cloud solutions, so it depends. I mean, I think we would say, I think it's around 4-to-1, and where that would make sense, because the 525 is a very good price for a SIP trunk.
It is a good price.
So most people that are buying this offer are using our SIP trunks 1-for-1. It just works.
So that's the selling point.
So that's the selling point.
But the problem, from the way competing and from the way this is structured, the three things I see different are the hardware, because most of the cloud providers are providing the hardware
Gotcha.
in their monthly charge, providing the phones. So the Avaya Cloud IP Office does that. The Cloud Solutions doesn't. The second thing is that the one-to-one trunking.
Yeah.
Businesses don't need one-to-one trunking.
They don't, yeah.
And yet we and everybody else are pushing it. And so what you just said is of interest to me.
Yeah.
I sell SIP and I haven't seen anybody with a $5.25
Yeah.
SIP trunk yet.
Or-
I mean, the lowest I've seen is $8.95.
Yeah.
But if I only had to offer 5 SIP trunks with ScanSource Cloud Solutions, that'd be cool. My only
Yeah.
fear is now I'm involving somebody else in this solution, whereas with ScanSource and Intermedia, I'm not having to call Intermedia if I have a problem, I'm calling ScanSource.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I'd be a little leery of involving another cook in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are working on a phone offer, right?
So yeah,
Office
so
phone offer.
we do have like leasing companies that we work with at ScanSource,
Yeah,
and then
leasing.
Avaya has their device flex purchase program as well. That's something that we can have available as well. You know, pretty much this whole year, if a end user has committed to 3 years, they've gotten a free phone. So we haven't really had to have that tough conversation yet because everybody's just
We've
been
gotten
getting.
a few free phone, the customer has not gotten a free phone.
That works for us. Yeah.
Isn't that the way it's supposed to work?
Yeah.
So on the fast catalog right now for the J phones, it shows a monthly price. What does that refer to?
I don't know as far as that that price goes, but I know that we do have those options for
What
Avaya let off.
What document is that?
Talk about
It's
fast
the
catalog.
fast catalog for ScanSource, and the new pricing, the new phones,
Uh-huh.
it shows a purchase price, a cost, and it shows a monthly
Hmm.
price.
I'll
That's
take
something.
that question back and we can get an answer
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen
because
that.
I know Corey's working on
Yeah.
The other, my other request is that for your pricing sheet, I'd love, I understand it's been in the works, but it's been in the works for about 10 months now, updating the tool to be more functional.
Sure.
And we can't quote call center, we can't quote Zima through this, we
Yeah.
can't do a lot of things that we have to depend upon you to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just hopeful that that will.
Yeah, I think we know kind of who our competition and some of the strong points they have. So like having some type of portal to pay and those types of things. And I don't really have any. I'm not a bearer of good news. I don't have any like dates on when things like those are going to happen. But those are things that we're looking at.
And
in
on
the
the positive
future.
side, your deployment cycle is good.
Yeah.
We get a little frustrated with the pieces, because we're ordering equipment, we're ordering cloud from you,
Yeah.
we're ordering the number port through Intermedia,
Mhm.
and trying to get all those pieces to coincide and not have this start billing before the port takes place and have, those issues. That's kind of a kludgy
Yeah.
process too. but
Yeah.
I guess that's the way it is.
Yeah. At least starting off, yeah. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's not, I guess, the most business-friendly logic or perspective, but I like to say, you sell one and then kind of figure out how it is, and then from there, it tends to be a little bit easier.